Okay, so I recently made a video about Neptune entering Aries, and I did a fair amount of explicating of what Neptune is in terms of its basic archetypal significations, and I wanted to expand on that a little bit right now. Something that I haven't really brought up before is the connection between Neptune and Dionysus, which is enormous. It's a huge swath of overlap when you look at these two mythic figures. And this is from an astrological viewpoint. People can critique that however they want. But this is from the viewpoint of astrological territory, essentially. Neptune was a god of the ocean, and what I'm going to be talking about is not in mythology so much as it is with a more modern understanding, psychological understanding of what this archetype represents. So let's start a little bit with Dionysus. And Dionysus was a extremely important figure in ancient mythology, so important that if you go to the Orphic hymns, you'll find that there's probably more epithets ascribed to Dionysus than you have to any other god. He is brought back to the his epithets include one for the original hermaphroditic being that is spoken of in the Orphic hymns and other places. This is a god who is the protagonist, known as protagonist or Phanes, or Ericapius is the epithet that seems to bridge between Dionysus and this original hermaphroditic figure. So this is a bigendered or hermaphrodite. This is a one of these androgyne kind of creatures, but it hatched from an egg, according to mythology. So Dionysus is cryptically a bigendered hermaphroditic being. Neptune, so pretty much by definition, we can say that virtually all of the gods at least in the Greek pantheon, and probably in many other places, share this cryptic hermaphroditic origin. We can see that Zeus has Athena pops out of his head after he swallows Metis, and he also sews up the baby Dionysus into his thigh, giving him this strange generative capacity, even though he is technically male. So there's other examples of that. Ares, by some accounts, has a parthenogenic origin coming from Hera, I believe. So there's all sorts of weird unnatural birth going on within these characters. So Neptune is Poseidon is a god of the ocean, and as I've spoken of previously in the videos about Neptune and Aries, I equate this to the semiotic stage of humanity in which we are underwater. We are in amniotic fluid in the womb prior to our birth, when we have no capacity to reason or to in any way filter out those things that are coming from the mother. So in my sort of view of astrology, this is the natural place that Neptune belongs, where there's a lack of filters, where we don't really, we're not able to parse out or separate those things out of our consciousness which are coming at us from the outside, which we cannot We don't have any, unless we develop filters for those things, we don't have them. And as I've probably mentioned before, I believe that it's Mars is the archetype of the that creates the filter. So with a Mars that is more highly developed, stronger Mars can have the capacity to filter out these things, and that's sort of a Mars-Mercury kind of thing, where it's Mars is the sense that we are being threatened. Mars gives us that essential idea of the fight or flight, where something pricks at us, something inflames us with a sense that we need to defend ourselves against it. And that is not always, a deadly animal or something from the exterior that's causing us discomfort. It's something in our environment from, somebody says something that seems suspect to you. This Mars ability to filter these things out, filter out the things that might kill you, even if they're like an untruth or something that doesn't sit right with you. So Mars is basically in some ways constructed and cultivated by an individual to be able to filter out those things that could cause harm. So Neptune exists before that. Neptune is this archetypal space in this astrological cosmology where we don't have a Mars / Mercury, because Mercury is the archetype in which that starts to become rational. And we do see, there's other archetypal influences. The sun, of course, is extremely important in that, because the solar energy is what gives us it's that teleology, the natural world as it is what the sun gives us. So it's our relationship to the sun as well that helps us to see what's real and what's not real. So this is, when you start pulling this thing apart, you start involving more and more of the archetypes. But just sticking with Neptune, this is the archetype of that which cannot be, we don't have the skills necessarily to be able to filter, which again, that corresponds quite well to the time period in which we're in the womb. So Neptune, really, this is why Neptune is equated, in my view, to to media, to all of the media, of course, those things which are coming at us that are attempting to influence, that are often constructed in order to influence us in this extremely primal fashion. So Neptune then takes on this a lot of sexual energy, because a lot of the things that are coming at us from the media and from the external world has a sexual hormonal implication to it. And when we cannot resist those things, when we're really deeply immersed in those stimuli, if we even seek out those stimuli in order to overstimulate ourselves, we're in a lot of ways in Neptune's territory then. So this brings us to Dionysus, because in the mythology of Dionysus, he's a male, at least ostensibly male, figure who's extremely feminized. Especially you look, apparently, if you go back into depictions and find depictions of him in deep history, you might find a older male, bearded. But then if you go into later depictions of Dionysus, he is a effeminate boy man, who's often dressed in loose fitting clothing and carrying a staff, and he's the god of wine. of course, and this brings us to inebriation, and this sort of immersive quality that Dionysus gives us. If you read things like the tragedy of the the Bacchae, which is by Euripides, you'll find that he's a cult leader. He's a leader of a cult of women, which go out. These women go out into the night and do orgiastic rituals in which they do all sorts of psychotropic drugs. They're doing ritual in the night, and there's definitely a sexual aspect to what's going on there. And Dionysus is basically the cult leader, and he's trying to protect this, and also seems like he's trying to recruit women into this. And in the Bacchae, there's starting to be problems in the town of Thebes because a lot of women have become involved in the cult, and they are no longer fulfilling their roles within their society. They're kind of checked out. They're doing these Bacchic rituals regularly. So they're sort of getting immersed in this cult. And when I say cult, I do mean cult. It's an organization which has rituals of hazing and rituals of initiation, in which you can rise in the ranks of the cult, but they don't want anybody to know what's going on within the cult. And the story of the Bacchae has this one ruler. He goes away for a while, and he comes back, and he finds that his kingdom has been infiltrated by the Bacchae. Now, just to say, the Bacchae isn't necessarily a bad impulse in itself, that there are women's places which are not intervened upon by males, where their women can, in fact, do their own thing. That basic principle should be sacrosanct, basically. But when it turns into something that's very cultish, and it's causing people to basically exit their abscond and not fulfill their familial obligations, you have to start questioning what's really going on. So Dionysus has this cult leader archetypal figure, where he's promoting this back to the land sort of wandering cult figure, and he's getting women to basically immerse themselves into this a non-individuated cult, where people are just acting very animalistic. If you see the Maenads are the women who have joined the cult, and they're doing things like ripping apart small animals. So it's a hunting cult, in addition to being a ritualistic, and it does appear that it's a ritual hunting as well, and the eating of raw flesh seems to be a part of this. So this is a return to extremely animalistic and primal behavior. So this is a huge overlap that I see going on with Neptune, and I've spoken a bit about violence as being one of the potentialities of Neptune. It's not 100% opioid kind of behavior, where it's just checking out and sitting around and not engaging the world as much, because that is certainly part of it. But when you're not engaging the world and you don't have filters, as I said, Mars and Neptune have a very difficult relationship, because Neptune really will condition Mars towards primal acts of anger, because Mars is not functioning in the presence of Neptune in this way in which it's removing the things, it's finding conflict and removing the conflict from to preserve the self. So Neptune has this effect essentially that it will disable that martial capacity for finding the things that will hurt us and put us in a state of immersion where we're more like an infant. Essentially, we're like a somebody who's in that semiotic state of being unable to recognize threat, essentially. But when the herd consciousness kicks in, the anger comes out. It can come out, and then we would see that the like the Bacchic rituals have particular rituals like this hunting ritual of tearing apart an animal, which are expressions of that martial violence in a very primordial fashion. So again, Neptune and Dionysus clearly seem to have this overlap of territory, and it's also the dreams and control of to influence the mind to be able to see things that are not there. We find that in the mythology of Dionysus, in that exact story by Euripides that I was describing. Dionysus is able to delude the maenads into believing that they are killing a mountain lion when they're actually killing a man. The king, they're actually ripping the king apart alive. They're also ritually uprooting a tree, which is a part of the rites of Attis and in the cult of Cybele and Attis, which is the same essential cult as the cult of Dionysus. And they rip apart the king who was peeping upon them in their Bacchic rites. So the principle that the man should not be peeping upon the women is one that's valid, but there's also it kind of obviates the potential for corruption and the occultish mindset, in which if you try and even figure out what the cult is doing, if you question the cult, you're basically you're ripped apart. And then when you're ripped apart, you actually become Dionysus, because the origin story of Dionysus is that upon his birth, he gets ripped apart by the Titans at the behest of Hera, because she's jealous because Zeus has impregnated Semele, and she obviously doesn't like that, so she doesn't want to see the child of Zeus and a mortal woman become the next king of the heavens. So she either rips him apart herself, or she has the Titans do it as her agents, which is also follows along with the story of Saturn, who was a Titan who castrated Uranus. So this violence by proxy to the goddess is a reoccurring theme, and one that we find here within this Neptunian kind of Dionysian archetypal territory. So this hopefully will give people a bit more psychological background into what I'm talking about when I talk about Neptune and what this archetype means. And particularly of interest, as I said, is its interaction with Mars. And as Neptune enters a Mars ruled sign, which is Aries, we have this inevitable mythic territory open up to us, where the conflict of Aries becomes very much front and center. The Aries is where we have emergence from the ground. The time of year of Aries is when the shoots are coming up, so that whenever you have something coming out of the earth, it's a type of birth, and that is the end of the semiotic, the obvious semiotic. It's where the child is separated from the mother, and then the eyes open, and then there's input into that child that's not entirely coming from the mother. And when you have an archetype like this, that is a difficult situation, and all sorts of things that I started to speak about the last time when I made the video about Neptune Aries. All of this comes front and center. So so Dionysus, huge overlap with Neptune. This ability to influence people, to see things that aren't there, to get into the mind and alter the vision and make things completely unclear, is very much like being underwater. Having images directly put into your head is very much like the semiotic period, in which we're getting all of everything we get comes from a source that it's a filter that we have no control over. So that's a lot of information. Hopefully that helps people. I'll probably do a little bit on Pluto next, because we just had a Sun Pluto conjunction not that long ago, and some reminders about, or some for people who aren't familiar with my work. I've done a lot on Pluto before, what Pluto means, Pluto Sun means, and so we'll be getting into that soon.